this was my major deciding factor in why I chose not to do traditional publishing. So number one, hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things books and writing. Today's video, obviously you saw the title, that's why you clicked on it. I'm talking about the very difficult decision of when you're writing a book and you're trying to choose to self-publish or traditional publish, and how to decide that. I'm gonna also share mostly like what I decided and what made me choose this option. I watched like a million of these videos when I was first trying to decide what to do. It took a while to decide. It takes a lot of soul searching to figure out what you want and which path is best for you, because for different authors, different paths are going to be better for them. There's no like one size fits all. I feel like when it comes to publishing, neither is better than the other. They have pros and cons to both of them, and it's no matter what, publishing a book is going to be a long journey, a difficult journey, depending on what happens. It is a hard thing to write and publish a book. So let's get to it. My experience, first of all, I'm writing a fantasy novel, a YA, new adult, somewhere in there, fantasy novel, and for most of 2022, I've been working on this project, and it took me probably until I started working on my book in March, like seriously, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to publish this book. It took me until about July to officially decide whether or not I was going to indie publish or self-publish my book. And after that, I definitely went back and forth on the decision, but now it's October. I'm 1000% set on my choice. I'm so happy with the choice that I'm choosing. I am going to be self-publishing my book, so I wanted to tell you why I chose that and maybe some pros and cons for you if you're deciding which one is best for you. I'm gonna do a whole series on this of my whole journey self-publishing. I've been sharing a lot of videos on my channel of me writing the book, and now I'm like very heavy into the publishing side as well as the writing. You kind of have to do it simultaneously when you're getting there with your self-publishing journey. So I'm going to be sharing more videos about the step-by-step process of like going through and doing all the publishing steps. So obviously this is all my opinion, and you can do these things or not do these things. It's all totally optional and up to you. It's all my opinion, so if you think self-publishing is terrible, don't worry about it. It's not for you. I obviously have also not traditionally published a book, so all the information that I'm sharing about the decision, like how to choose the pros and cons between traditional and self-publishing, they are all just from research and listening to other authors who have traditionally published in the middle grade YA adult fantasy. Like I tried to look at a wide variety of people's opinions on it, and also people in different countries. So for some reason I've come across a lot of UK authors and their opinion. Most people talk about being published by a big five, so one of the big five publishing houses. This is just what I've gathered from their experiences and from research. I also went down the rabbit hole of originally I was planning to do the traditional route. So I did a large chunk of research and started that process, because when I was starting to write my book, I think I didn't really even know self-publishing was an option. If you're searching for this video, then you know self-publishing is an option. I feel like unless you've been a part of a lot of online communities, it doesn't seem as popular, but once you enter into those spaces, I feel like there's a lot of people who are self-publishing their books. I had no idea before I started like getting into that world and seeing how large it is, and the kind of like variety, everything, the variety of money, the variety of genres, it's a whole new world. All right, so let's get into it. So self-publishing pros of why I chose it, and also traditional publishing pros. We're going to start off with the positives and why you might want to choose one versus the other. So I guess we could talk about some obvious ones. So for traditional publishing, some pros are that A, you get paid up front. That's probably the biggest pro to me of traditional publishing. When you're looking at selling your book, you get paid up front. So you get an advance. Then later on, you have the option to have royalties. That is one popular thing about traditional publishing. You will be paid a lump sum of money in the beginning when they buy your book. From my research, it is usually like half upfront, depending on the amount that it is, and then half like when your book is like completely done and your contract is fulfilled. Everything's all done. And then based on your book sales, you potentially can get royalties. So that's one pro of traditional publishing. Two is if you have always dreamed and wanted to be in a Barnes & Noble or any other major bookstore, traditional publishing is most likely your route. If like the image, the clout, the like, I don't know, if you want to be able to say that you're published by a certain publishing house, or, you know, you want your books to be in paperback everywhere and be able to walk into a Barnes & Noble or a bookstore and see your book on the shelf beautifully there, traditional publishing is most likely for you. So that would be another pro. And along with that, I mean, maybe there's different views on this, but I imagine, and from what I've heard, your book just has a bit more natural connections built in to be petitioned for like a TV show or a movie. Those connections are just already built into those publishing companies. And whereas like if you're doing it yourself, that's not something that like is just gonna happen for you. So you don't have somebody pushing your book out to different locations who have connections in a lot of those different things, like the bookstores, like movie and TV. And then another pro that I see about traditional publishing is that you're working in a team environment. You're gonna have a whole team. So like you have your agent and the publishing company, and then they have the marketing team, and like all these different people who are helping you and like who have a lot of industry knowledge and kind of like know what sells the best and, you know, how to sell things to market, and they have their wisdom that if you don't know anything about that and you are just someone who's like, I wrote this book and I love it, and you don't know any of those other factors, like you have a whole team who is experienced to help you accomplish those things, and, you know, somebody who's a professional in marketing and knows exactly what to do. Now, I have heard though, on the other side of that it may not be the same as it used to, and authors are definitely expected to market their own books to an extent, but you do have like somebody creating like cover art and like graphics and just a lot of things that as a indie author you would have to do yourself. Those are my top pros. If I think of another one, I will insert it. But I was gonna go pros, but I feel like it's better to just kind of like tell the flip side of that with the indie author. So I guess the cons, like where those are the pros of traditional publishing, like a lot of those things are not true for indie publishing. So I just said it would be a team environment. You would have people who are experts in every area helping you do a lot of the process. So on the opposite side of the things on indie publishing, you wear every single hat. So for some people that's a positive. I guess for me, I find that as a positive. I like being really involved in stuff. So you wear every single hat. You are the marketer. You're publishing it, like getting all the graphics and the website and all of that kind of like specifics. Like you have to know the formatting and the size and everything. That's something a publisher would do. You're responsible for everything. So finding your own editor or editing it yourself, creating your own cover or hiring someone to do that, it's all you. It's all you, baby. And the same with the marketing. So you're the only way that your book will sell any copies. And if you want it to be in the hands of higher powers of TV and movies, I have no idea how you do that. I've seen people have success basically just because they got exposure, and the same with audiobooks. You could definitely do your own audiobooks through companies like ACX and like kind of like freelancing audiobooks, but you can also get audiobook deals. People can see your book and want to buy the rights for an audiobook. Most of the time it's just all you. All you making the connections, finding the right people to help make your book a reality and to also get it in the hand of readers. So everything is you. You wear every hat and you do all of the marketing, community building, and connecting. And as well as like you would have to set up your own like book signings, book events, book launches, cover reveals, like everything's all you. If that terrifies you, maybe it's not your thing, you know? But I really like to be involved in things and I like having control over stuff. So on the con side of traditional publishing, you don't have control over every aspect. Having a team is awesome, but it doesn't mean that you make every final decision. You'd hope that's the way it is, but from hearing other people's experiences, it doesn't sound like that's the way it is. And also, I imagine it's just not physically possible. Like, they gotta sell books. They think like a different way would sell, a different cover, a different, blurb, a different anything. If they want to market your book a certain way because they think that's what's going to sell the best, then they're probably going to do it, because at the end of the day, they're a company, a publishing company, and they need to make money, and they want to make money off your book. That's their entire business. So when it's yours completely through indie publishing, you're the only one making money. Besides, the booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the different platforms that you can sell your books on, they take a cut, but it's not quite the same as a publishing company that their entire business is like, they gotta sell your book. So they want to make sure your book doesn't flop. All right, and then on the opposite side, from traditional publishing, you get paid up front in advance. A con of self-publishing is you front the entire cost. The entire cost. Everything. This is a major consideration for why I think a lot of people don't want to self-publish, is because they start looking at how costly it can be, and they say no. And so they go to traditional publishing because they don't have the budget for it. Totally makes sense. I think there's a lot of ways that you can do this, and you do not have to spend the amount of money that someone else spends. So I've seen people spend like $300 to $500 to publish their book, and then I've also seen people spend like $5,000 to $10,000 to publish their book. So it really just depends on what you gotta do. It also depends on how much of a perfectionist you want to be, how professional you want the book to look like, and also how talented you are, as in how many other skills do you have. Because if you're an artist as well, then like your cover art is going to be a piece of cake for you. But if you're somebody who has like zero art skills or zero graphic design skills, then making a cover might be very challenging for you, and therefore you need to buy a cover artist to do it. So it can be pretty costly. It really just depends. So far, I don't think I've spent any money yet on my book, because I've mostly just been writing, and I know the one thing that I will be spending money on is my cover art. So I just really want a professional cover done. That's what will make my heart happy in my book. Like, having my book published is like a very real looking book that just in my head, like, I don't care if I walk in Barnes & Noble and see my book. I mean, that'd be cool. But I want to look at the art on my book, like the cover, and just be like, ugh, I love this cover. So, and I don't think that I could create something like that. And I also think that I would nitpick over every detail. And for time's sake, that's why I'm not doing it myself. Because I would probably spend more time working on the cover than I would writing the book. And then my book will just like never come out. So I can hire somebody for, I've seen it from like anywhere from like, you could probably get one for $50 to like $1,000. It really just depends on what you're doing. It's all up to you. I feel like the budget, you have to set a budget if you're gonna self-publish, because you could spend an exorbitant amount of money. All right, so those were my big pros. So now I have a lot of cons on the traditional publishing side. The next one, this was my major deciding factor in why I chose not to do traditional publishing. So number one for me was, it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years to get your book from like the day that it's accepted by your publishing company, like bought by your publishing company, to the shelves and into readers' hands. And I couldn't do that. I was like, oh my gosh, if it takes me a year to write this book, like that felt too long even to like get this book into the world, which is really impatient, I know. But like, I don't know, I just like don't have a long attention span for that kind of stuff. Like, if I have this idea and I'm writing this book and I'm living in this world, like once I finish the book, like I want us to be done, you know? Like, I want to move on to something else. I want to move on to book 2 in my series. Or I want to start a new project, you know what I mean? I couldn't handle that. That is a long process because it goes through, one of the pros, it goes through so many people's hands. So lots of different people touch your book, and that's a great thing, but that is a timely thing. It'll take a lot of extra time. Also, I just couldn't deal with, I don't know, it's impatience, I guess, but like, I know I want to publish this book that I'm writing no matter what. Like, I don't really need somebody else to tell me that like this book is good enough, I guess, to write. Like, I'm going to write the best book that I can possibly write, and it's gonna go through other people's hands. It's gonna go through editors and beta readers, and like, I'm gonna do my like due diligence to make sure that other people have seen this book and it's not just like a very unedited, unprofessional, crazy book. I guess the more I researched, people kind of said like, your first book, they may throw it out. And I'm like, you know what? When I finish my book, I just want it to be a real book. That would just not fly for me. So with traditional publishing, you have to write your book, your manuscript. It needs to be like done, you know, like edited completely, and like a regular, like what you would want to turn in, and then you query it, where you have to find an agent who wants to take your manuscript on. And then once you find the agent has to sell it to a publisher. It has to go through a lot of people's approval before it even gets to the contract phase to even possibly start the process of like creating the book, where it's going to go through an editor, the cover art's going to be made, and all these other aspects of the book that take a lot of time. And they also take a lot of time, like they have other books, so your book gets like put in a lineup of books. It's not like your book doesn't just get to come out because it's done. I don't have patience for that, I'm gonna be honest. So that's why that was my biggest negative. I could not once I like really realized that and like thought about it for a long time, I was just like, I think it would frustrate me. And I also like had started gathering agents and like was totally fine with that whole process of querying. But I've seen some people query for like a year before they find the right agent, because you send it out to some people, but you don't want to send it out to everybody, because if your book has like something glaringly wrong in it that the agents hate and they tell you, you want to be able to edit it and fix it and then send it to more people. My other issue with the whole process of like querying and like sending out your manuscript to different publishers and agents is that I have heard from a lot of people, and it's also like very apparent in the publishing world, like you can just see it like what's being published, is that they go through specific themes that they want to publish specifically. And if your book is outside of that theme, it's not like to market, and it's not the current market right now. It's not what they're trying to push like out into the bookstores. It's not what's selling. But as a reader, and also like, you know, from what I see in the book community, trends only go so far with the average reader, or the majority of readers, I would say. Like, people like some trendy things, and I can see what books are trending and like different, you can also like see like what types of covers and stuff are trending. Like, it's definitely shifted. Like, it used to be things like, I feel like, for an example, covers used to be like people on it, where now I feel like a lot of people have shifted to words. I know this is just like one author's example, but if I look at a ton of different books that are popular right now or have just recently been released, most of them are like typography covers. So that's just an example of a trend, but like one day that won't be the trend anymore. So I feel like if your book is just like not the trend right now, you're probably going to struggle to sell your book to an agent or a publisher, and that doesn't mean that your book isn't good. So that just really frustrated me. Like, I don't know if my book is a trend book, but I think that it has aspects that readers will like. So it's like, I don't want to be boxed in. That's my thought. That's one of the reasons I didn't choose that, is I don't want to be boxed into what is currently on trend, or, you know, a book that's to market. So what comes with that, a pro of the indie side, is that you completely control the timeline. If I'm good at writing, like later on, I've seen other people do this, you can publish multiple books a year. And financially, that's what it seems to be like the best moneymaker is, you know, in the business of publishing books, in self-publishing, is if you can pop out a couple books a year, you have enough momentum that people are really interested in your book. So everybody finishes books quickly, I feel like, in like the reader community. If you read a lot of books, I feel like you're not usually taking like months to read one book. Some people, totally. But a lot of people finish a book quickly and then they want the next book in the series. So when you have a series, that's awesome. If you're traditionally publishing, people are definitely gonna have to wait multiple years between each book, or minimum of like a year, you know? I like the idea of being able to control the timeline, and also like being able to put the book where it works best for me, like throughout the year. I really like the concept of knowing that how many books I publish or how much money I make is dependent on me and how hard I work. Whereas I feel like you could keep writing books, but it's still going to take a while in a traditionally published setting. Like, you could write 3 books a year, but they can't all be published in the same year. There's just not enough time for that in the traditional publishing world, I guess, if that makes sense. Unless you're, unless you're very famous or something. I don't know. I could be completely off on that, but I feel like it definitely takes a while to publish a book, traditionally. Hopefully, after I finish my first book, I am much faster at this whole writing books thing and can publish more than 1 book a year. That's the goal. For my last consideration that I thought about when trying to decide between self-publishing and traditional publishing was the potential to make money and like have writing as a career. Right now, it's just a thing that I'm doing, but potentially one day it'll, be a great source of income. That's the hope, at least. So I spent a lot of time comparing what the average person makes and also the barriers to making money, like the forms, how you make money, basically. I feel like this is an area where you really have to do, like what's best for you and your family, you and your life. You got to think about what will work for you. And also, if you're just doing this on the side for fun and you're not worried about how much money you're making, like obviously you have a lot more freedom in which one you choose, which is kind of my case. My ability to make money off of my books are not going to be the life or death situation of like food being on the table or not. So that's not something I have to worry about. From what I understand in traditional publishing, yes, you get an advance up front. You get a chunk of money dispersed sometimes over multiple years, which is great. You get this money up front, but it can be dispersed over multiple years depending on how much money it is. And from my understanding of what other people have said and my research of like average statistics that are out there, it's typically not enough to live off of, like for the year. It's just a chunk of money. Chunk of money is great, and getting paid a specific chunk of money is awesome for your book. That's awesome. So that's not an aspect of the indie publishing. It's really just all about the sales and your marketing. But on the self-publishing side, you also have the possibility of royalties. And I say possibility of royalties because from what I looked up, in order to be getting royalties, you have to earn in sales the amount that your advance was, if that makes sense. I feel like this is kind of like a convoluted topic, and a lot of the research I feel like is very conflicting. So obviously I have not published a book traditionally, so I don't have like first base knowledge and experience but from my research, you have to basically earn out your advance. So depending on how much money that was, you have to earn that amount in your sales, like royalties, like in the royalties. I'm pretty sure. I'll put the information up here if I'm wrong. I don't think it's like gross sales. I think it's the amount of royalties. So it's a certain percentage, and I can't remember right now, but I'm going to put up the amount of the average royalty percentage up here because I know on the self-publishing side, like way more now because of just time has passed in researching this, and I'm very focused on the self-publishing side now. So you have the potential to make royalties at some point. So it depends on how much they paid you, because if they only paid you $10,000 and you have to earn back $10,000, maybe that's, pretty doable. But unless your book's like super popular, if you got a nice advance, that's a lot of money to have to earn, like a lot of sales. And that may take multiple years for your book to earn that, to get to that level, or you can earn out with the royalties and then be getting your own chunk of the royalties. And from research, the average number of sales for first-time authors is just not a lot. Like, it's very difficult to get over that amount that your advance was. And therefore, it may be many years before you're receiving royalties, and some people may never see royalties. So the advance that you get may be the only money you ever receive from that book, despite it's still selling, I think I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I wouldn't be earning money on every book. And also, it kind of felt like I was selling my book for a set amount, and then you may never see more than that. And I feel like that's just a gamble I don't know, I'm not really a person that can like do stuff like that. So on the opposite side of indie, you pay for everything, and then you also, don't get any money up front. So everything is contingent on how many books you sell. Obviously, however much money you put into like the cost of your book, you want to make that back, because then you zero out. So you want to be really cautious, especially as a first-time author, like how much money you're putting into your book. I've thought about that, and it's really easy to want to spend a lot of money on your first book. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of setup costs that like you don't really have to do every year after that. So like if you're gonna format your own book, there's like a program that you have to buy for that, and that's a cost. And then you're always gonna have to buy a cover artist if that's your choice, or an editor. Personally, one of my best friends is an editor, and she's going to help me edit the book. And then if I need to do any additional edits, I will. But I'm going to go with that for my first book, I think. Just to kind of keep those costs low until I see kind of like how this goes. The difference is that once you publish your book, especially once you meet the amount that you spent on the book and you zero out, all that money is yours. You're earning royalties on it. So it depends on how much your book costs. But I think the typical is that you're earning about 70% on your royalties of each one. So of each book. So it's different between like ebooks and paperback books, the different percentage. But it's typically around like, 50 to 70% of each sale. And I just personally liked that number better because I just felt like the odds of getting a really nice advance as a first-time author would just be really low. And so I would be making just such a small amount of money, and I feel like even if I only ever make the same amount as like a low advance but make it on every single book, like I don't know, it just works better in my brain. But then on the opposite, and this is kind of the dreamer side of me, I've seen a lot of people be so successful and have $20,000 months. And people who are new authors, like fairly new, literally just having one $20,000 month, which I'm not saying that would happen for me, but I've seen it happen to other people. Literally having one of those would cover, times 10 the book. Like if you spend $1,000 on the book, you're covering that cost very quickly. And even if all you ever make on it is $20,000, you still made more potentially than you might have with an advance. I don't know. I'm kind of on a ramble there. It's all operating in like ifs, but I just like the potential that the possibility of making more money depending on how hard I work, how hard I market. There's just always a possibility of doing really well with your sales. Especially I see with Kindle Unlimited, people do so well with that. I know there's a lot of like mixed opinions on that, but a lot of different very young authors who are first time or only a couple of books out, like they're doing significantly well on their Kindle Unlimited page reads. And I think a lot of that has to do with Book Talk, and I am definitely a part of the Book Talk community and love it. I think that people rally around new authors and love to support them. I personally love reading new authors. I just feel like, I don't know, it's just like you gotta support people. They're doing something so cool. And the more authors' books I read who are first-time authors, I'm just like so impressed because I know how much work goes into that, and they did it all themselves. And I am reading their like finished product of months and months of work, and it's just great. So that's to me a very big positive, is there's just so much potential in how much money you can make. And you also get complete control over the price of your book, and any sales that you do or giveaways, like you're in complete control of everything. You're in complete control over the prices and how much money you make, and you're really just not contingent off other things. Also, I've seen people get traditional book publishing deals after self-publishing, and because of how successful they are. And I've also seen people self-publish a book and then be able to sell their book in Barnes & Noble as well. So I feel like a lot of doors are opening up for self-published authors, and a lot of the things that a traditional publishing company can offer you, if you have the time, money, blood, sweat, and tears to put into it, you can potentially have just as successful of a career as another author who's traditionally published. Will you ever be, a $40 million author? Maybe not, But I feel like those are the one in a millions, and that's just not really, it's not in the cards for most of us. So I also have seen indie publishers or indie published authors get movie deals, and it's just, I don't know, like you just never know. You never know who's gonna see something on social media. So I feel like you can't underestimate like what's gonna happen. Like nothing's really out of the question, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah, these are my thoughts. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments below. I probably forgot something, but these are my main thoughts. This is why I wanted to be a self-published author, but I think there's also tons of people who will thrive in the traditional publishing world and have very successful author careers. It also just depends on what you define being a successful author as. Is it making tons of money? Is it being in Barnes & Noble and having anybody be able to go out and buy your book? I don't know. It really depends on what your successful author moment is. And for me, my successful author moment is, well, I guess moments. My goal in being a successful author is A, to have a book. You're an author once you have the book and it's published, and I want other people to read it. But I want my books to just like, you know, touch somebody's heart, to help somebody through a bad day. To me, that's what reading does for me. To, I don't know, I want somebody to enjoy my book. That's being a successful author to me. The other side of that is I would eventually like to make a livable wage off of my books, and that would make me a successful author. I would like to be able to continue making books and continue having a reader base of people who enjoy my books and want to read the next one. And I want to have a community of, you know, readers and author friends and just people who enjoy reading and writing, and build that kind of community. So that's something I love about YouTube. I feel like I've already chatted with so many people who are authors and who are writing their first book, and also just people who love reading, and you're my kind of people. So it's been great. So I feel like that's what a successful author career for me looks like. And I like the idea of having the freedom to kind of do whatever I want with my books. And also, I'll try to see how to do this, because you're really not supposed to, but I want to be able to write in different genres or write very different types of books and not really like be limited, you know? Like I don't want anybody to tell me you can't do something. So I don't know, that's just my personality. But I feel like whichever path you choose, just choose the path that's the best fit for you, and you'll have an amazing career. So thanks so much for watching this video. I'm going to be doing a series like this. If you liked this video, there'll be plenty more coming soon that talk about my self-publishing journey. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!